already won. Jerks. China shut down its cinemas after trying to reopen. This is via deadline. China's reshutting off all of its cinemas nationwide as it continues to battle the coronavirus. This is according, again, to Deadline. The country's National Film Bureau has contacted all the exhibitors saying that the venues must be closed once again with no immediate time frame for reopening. So they opened up more than 500 cinemas last weekend, and this was after being publicly closed since January. That only represented about 4.5% of the country's cinema real estate, but it was this idea that it was the beginning and they were going to expand out from there. The city of Shanghai was set to reopen further 205 cinemas on Saturday, but they didn't. And one of the reasons why is that they saw a few, I think it was around 53 more cases, many of which they said were because people were coming into China and bringing the coronavirus back in. So ostensibly, it looks like they want to recontain it. They've also shut down their borders, so nobody can come into China from other countries. They want to recontain the virus, and then maybe down the line we'll make a move to reopen some of these theaters. I want to ask everybody their take on this. Look, we were all looking at China as kind of the guidepost for the return to normalcy and how that would play out. I was pretty disappointed to hear this at a personal level, but I don't know how you guys felt. I mean, let me be clear. Of course, first and foremost, people should be safe. Of course.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's a guide. I agree. It's sort of the guidepost, perhaps. I mean, no two countries are the same, but for what we could see coming up, and I think it only speaks to, there's been a lot of talk here in the United States very recently. Some of our leaders are saying, hey, we've got to really do what we need to do. And some of our leaders are saying, like, let's go hunt for Easter eggs. I think that it's a good sign, not good, a positive, but good as in a productive sign, in the sense of like a serviceable and actionable sign, that to try to do things too quickly is perhaps not the way to go, because we don't know what the twists and turns of this are going to be. Like we said, they started reopening movie theaters in China when it seemed like cases inside the country had dropped to almost zero. But then you have this wrinkle of, but wait, they hadn't thought about the fact that people are coming in with it. So to me, it just further, number one, solidifies the fact that the right thing to do is to let this thing, as much as it may suck, to let this thing take its course and do what's best for public health. And number two, it again just solidifies for me, as far as our summer movie season goes, that July, I think, still to me is a best case scenario, and I think it's very likely that we go further than that.
Yeah, it looks like that. I mean, look, Wonder Woman already moved its date back, and I wonder if we're looking at another move on Wonder Woman, or even to next year. I mean, again, Joe, I would like to hear mostly from your cat, but I suppose if you also have thoughts on this, we're willing to hear from you too.
Stuart's opinions on this are mostly
Stuart
isn't mine or Torland's. He's scared of it. That's mostly as including voices that come from a TV. See, he heard Stu say his name and he's uncomfortable already.
Did you name him after the Mad TV character?
It was okay. No, when we adopted them, they already had names. And we didn't want to confuse them. So they kept their names.
Mine had a name when I adopted her and I changed it.
Well, he's an idiot. So he's very dumb, and your cat's much smarter.
Or I'm just a much worse parent.
If I ever have a real child, I'm going to change its name once a year.
Yeah.
Just smart.
Wait, we were talking about movie theaters in China? No, the cat.
Probably, yeah, mostly the cat. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I know we don't come here for Alex Jones level, everything is bad chemtrails content, but what if we did? Because when I saw this headline, I was just like, oh, well, this is just a big example of the fact that no one's telling us how bad this actually is. And it's just governments playing chicken with what they can get away with and what they cannot get away with in terms of reporting. And so China's government was like, we're good. And then it seems like their theater chains went, cool, we're going to open. And then China's government went, whoa, 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 maybe you like shouldn't do that. And I think it's going to be the same here. You know, we have our government telling us that they want us back to work come Easter Sunday, and everyone's going to open back up. And I think something similar will definitely just happen here, where they'll play chicken as far as they can, and then pull back, and everything will shut down. Wonder Woman will push back again, et cetera, et cetera. Everything's great.
Spencer.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. You know what, Joe?
5G is being spread through the chemtrails.
All right, I will say this. One of the things that I think you bring up that's notable and important for persons, maybe not these persons, but we're going to do it anyway, to talk about is, look, I think we were in a media landscape already where there was a tremendous amount of distrust in organizations, in institutions, in journalism, and truth became a hard thing to discern. And conspiracy theories really have risen from being more on the fringe to being more and more in mainstream. And I think in a time like this, that gets incredibly complex and dangerous, and difficult for everyone to navigate. Because I think
luckily, though, people can count on the four of us.
No, don't do that. I beg you, don't listen to this. I'm just bringing up how we're handling it, because I feel like even in any given day, I get 5 anecdotal pieces of information from someone I know who knows a cop, you know, or knows someone who does financial.
My uncle works at Nintendo. Yeah.
But people, and then like, or someone who's like, their job is to basically project global implications of financial disasters. And then on the other hand, I have a partner who's like, but I heard from Dr. Drew, the supply chains will be fine. And I'm like, this is madness. He's not even a real shrink. I'm bringing all of this up because I think a lot of people are wrestling with this. I'm not saying I have an answer, but do you find that, Spencer? Or are you just like, I listen to the CDC and nobody else?
Oh, I don't know. I just think that the answers are complicated and not digestible into like little sound bites. I think as far as America goes, just because of how we've handled it so far and the fact that we're like a republic of different states, is that the virus is going to affect different areas differently and at different times. So if we're waiting until this is all over to go to the movie theater, like we'll be waiting until 2021 at some point. If we're gonna like spread into like safe zones and like red alert zones, then like maybe they can roll out like across the country, like in states where it's deemed safe to go out and safe where it isn't. Like it's just gonna be messy and complicated.
I think that's really interesting. Like at what point do the theater chains start to go, okay, Wonder Woman can open in Ohio, Wisconsin, California, North Dakota, and then hopefully next month, South Dakota and Rhode Island. That's kind of interesting.
Here's the problem with that, I think, is number one, piracy, which sucks.
Yeah.
Number two, I don't care what restrictions are in place. I think particularly if you get into the big genre films, there are fans of those films that will do anything to see them, which I think includes if you're in New York City, and the theaters are shut down, but you know, Black Widow is playing in Virginia, I think you will see people travel from New York City to Virginia to go see Black Widow, but they could be bringing the virus with them from where they are and take it to someplace where it's not because the theater's open. Like, I think it's so complex to try to do it that way. And like marketing, like you market here, you market there, you got to make sure it goes to which theaters. I just don't. I think doing it piecemeal that way, especially for theaters, is I don't know how you do it, especially because the bigger markets, New York, Los Angeles, the big cities, are probably going to be the last ones to come back online. I just don't know how you do that. I think it's a nightmare. There's so many logistical nightmares to it that I don't know. I just don't know.
I wonder, first of all, to parse out the 2 points that I think I was making. One is that I think what's become thrown into very sharp relief in a time like this is that having the ability to have faith in certain institutions is incredibly important to a functioning society. Like having places where information can be that we can all go to and agree that that is the correct information is incredibly important. And I hope that we return somehow to a way. Don't mock me in my utopian dreams, Spencer. I see your face.
I didn't say anything. Joe said something.
I'm being pretty serious right now. Like this is one of the most dangerous aspects of this current crisis is that no one knows what to believe. I mean, Joe brought it up accidentally, but like, it's like we don't trust that the government in China is giving the correct information or that anyone's giving the correct information. And the yo-yo makes it very hard to discern how to behave, which I only think is going to make things worse.
Oh yeah,
So,
not accidental for me. I got my bug out bag packed, baby.
with that in mind, Dan, to your point, it's like this is a roller coaster day to day, even in terms of like the perception of how movies and entertainment should react. We said yesterday that we didn't believe that any really significant tentpole would come to home video, but I wonder if there are conversations about like, we might have to radically rethink business, period. And if that means Wonder Woman or not, maybe not Wonder Woman, but a tentpole movie being available for $30 to $50 for a family that weekend and then cascading down after that, that might be something that the entertainment industry has to seriously start considering if we're looking at more than a 2-month closed shutdown of theaters, which as of today, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think they may have to reinvent the wheel. I don't know what that means. I don't think you can do a thing like Wonder Woman for $19.99 at home day and date. I just don't. The economics aren't there. I think you have to come up with a new system that's like you said, the price point is so high that it makes sense. But I don't, there's so much unknown and it's probably, we talk about, this is already an unstable time in the sense of like streaming services and theatrical windows and Netflix and that they're in theaters, but they're not. And but now you add on to this idea of like, what's the best way forward? And are we opening a Pandora's box that we wish that we hadn't opened? Like, I don't envy anyone who has to figure out the economic strategy for a studio right now and what the best thing to do is, because, you can come up with a game plan, and it's sort of like we did with this show. Like, we had a game plan for what we were going to do, and 2 days later it was out the window. I don't envy anybody that has to sit and figure out the economics of this in the months forward, not knowing if you're planning for 6 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks or 6 months. It's an impossible job, but at the same time, you're right. At some point, you have to figure out a way to get money coming in, or else you're going to go out of business. Is Disney going to go out of business? No, Disney's not going to go out of business. But could Paramount?
Mm-hmm.
Could the smaller studios, the ones that aren't doing as well, at a certain point, you have to start thinking about that. So it's a question I certainly don't have an answer to, and I do not envy the people whose job it is to come up with the answers to it.
But even when you say reinventing the wheel, I mean, as much as we're stuck in this right now, it is temporary. Business will go back to normal. Just if it takes a year, it takes a year. Like, people are going to revert back to the old studio model and production will resume. It just might take a really, really long time. So, like you're saying, you don't want to pivot too early because, come next year, things will go back to the old way. Allegedly,
the old way.
Yeah. But I mean, especially look at Warner. Like, how much is Warner now thrown into HBO Max? And now they're looking at their income sheets and how long can they afford to not have any movies in the theaters?
Well, it's a good time to launch an at-home streaming service.
No, for sure it is. But it's like, how much do they want to lean into that? How much do they want to take some of their premium films home? And instead of waiting for this question mark date that might move into next year, I'm not the one, to your point, Dan, I'm not the one looking at those financials, but I'm sure there's contingency plans on contingency plans on contingency plans being made right now. And I guess like, I'm not sick. I had a beverage. My main thought is like, the thing to be considering is, how do we keep the most people safe, well, working, financially solvent? Like, How do we do that? What are the cuts that, I mean, you know what? Yeah, Ryan, I was about to get on a soapbox and I won't do it to you. I will not do it to you.
Well, I think Spencer said, it's a good time to launch a streaming service, but it's also, if the original stuff you were shooting is on hold, it's a challenging time too, because on one hand, yeah, they can launch with Friends and they can launch with The Office, but I feel like we're not even a year out from Disney Plus, and it seems like the whole world's yawning at the giant nostalgia package that is Disney Plus and just demanding new stuff. So it's probably also a little nerve-wracking to just hope that HBO Max can coast on Friends while everyone's production calendars try to catch back up.
Yeah. I mean, animation is still, from what I understand, and most people, I don't know if you guys have friends that work in animation,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those productions are still moving forward, which is really great. I wonder if we're just going to see a glut of animated series
That'd be
over
fun.
the next couple of years,
Or are we going to see a glut of A-listers doing, the really like conceptual horror movies where it's like a man was murdered during a Blue Jeans meeting, and or while live streaming a video game? Are we going to see a glut of A-listers doing those movies? Because it's just what to do.
And off-tune covers of pop songs. Don't forget those.
Yeah, there will definitely be a Law and Order SVU episode about zooming at some point.
That's not a bad idea, though, Joe. I mean, I think
Or Mark Wahlberg's going to do a Twitch movie.
They call it the coronavirus.
You guys,
Kids are injecting it into their butthole.
I was just playing this Animal Crossing, and now there's a murderer.
Should we sing for the people, you guys, to comfort the people?
I will not be doing that, but you're all welcome to do it.
Roth, I'll do it with you. Roth, you pick the song, and then you and I will do it together. Absolutely.
Oh, now never was there ever a
Killing
cat
this.
so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles. You guys just abandoned me again.
You didn't count it off.
You're supposed to hand it off, Roth. You're supposed to pass the baton. Joe, that's your cue.
Memories of the way we were.
It's the wrong memory song, but that's okay.
Somebody wants.
The world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. Go, Dan.
I'm doing the sound effects.
All right.
I will not be singing. That's I draw my line.
Dan, I just want to say that the Baby Yoda, I didn't notice it until a few minutes into streaming, and it startled me.
Yes, the child. We got very lucky. I pre-ordered the child on day one, and they sent one batch out before the rest are held up in production. But we got very lucky. I bought this from Mara for Hanukkah.
Nice.
So yes, we have our child, which Sir Pounce, our other cat, is terrified of. He is not a fan of the child. So we keep him nestled in the corner back there.
Got that in time. Yeah, I know there was a lot of you can share it with the world. Look, we're healing the world, one doll and song at a time, you guys. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, and hitting that bell. It means a lot. Please do go ahead and like the video because it rises it up in the algorithms, and then the sorcery happens and more people see it, and then we're able to keep doing this, which hopefully you enjoy. We don't have a giveaway today, but we do want to call out the winner of yesterday's laser party draw, Tiffany Drowning. Thank you. Please email. Should I do this email out loud, Joe?
She can just connect with Ryan in chat.
Okay, connect with Ryan in chat, and he will tell you how you can get it. That is a beautiful thing. And then now is the moment in our program before we get to talking about uncomfortable movie watching with our parents, that you guys can call out to a quarantine hack that you like or a way to keep supporting people. I open up that opportunity to all of us right now.
Ooh.
I'm really looking forward because the weekends are when I get to order from a local restaurant. I'm getting a salad.
That sounds nice. Friend of the channel, Charlie Feldman, I retweeted it yesterday, so you can find it on Twitter. She's trying to help her husband's a school teacher, and they're trying to raise money for underprivileged kids to have access to tablets and laptops. You know, aside from theaters trying to figure out how to do their job now, schools are as well. And, you know, a lot of schools are trying to do these pivots to self-learning. You know, the schools that like my nieces and nephews and the kids in my family go to, you know, those kids already have like 4 different laptops and an iPad, and they're okay. But there are a lot of kids who the self-learning thing just becomes they're not going to do anything because they don't have access to that kind of thing. I retweeted that fundraiser on Twitter, help some kids distance learn.
I am going in to do that right now. Going to Charlie Bellman's page. That's a great one. And there's also No Child Hungry, I think I mentioned yesterday, which is helping to make sure that kids have meals at this time. Especially, I know that the schools, I think, still are serving some of the meals, but just making sure that there's access to meals for kids. Spencer, Dan, if you want to chime in, great. If not, we're gonna.
I don't have any stuff to support, but that all sounds awesome. Y'all should give money and whatever time and energy you can to that stuff. I have a weird way of coping. I'm reading incredibly depressing, true nonfiction books to make it seem like things aren't so bad right now. So I'm reading The Good War by Studs Terkel, which is like the book that World War Z was based on. And it's just like all these firsthand accounts of World War II. And like the first third of it is basically people who were in like Japanese people who were interned in America and Americans who were in Japanese prison camps. And it's like, you know what? Coronavirus ain't so bad. Still got all my toes.
Also, props to the name Studs Terkel.
Studs Terkel is like the greatest author name of all time.
He's going to fight Dick Tracy.
Yeah. They don't name him like they used to.
No, they do not.
You tell Tracy to leave old Studs Terkel out of this one, see? Yeah, I mean, mine is, it's really just, if you've seen a face on this show or on this channel that's not the 4 of us, then I promise you that they've got something going on right now. They're hustling as they always do.
Yeah.
I feel like our panelists and the people that we work with that aren't, you know, part of like fandom proper in the sense of like full-time employees, I feel like people don't fully grasp like before this how hard they were hustling. And then like now how much harder they have to hustle. It's insane. Like I look at it and I'm just like, that's crazy. Just the amount of hard work that all of them do. So yeah, just if you've seen a face on this show that you like, go find them. Go find them on the socials, and I promise you that they will be doing a live stream or a new show. I saw Roxy's launching a new show with some friends.
I was going to mention that. World Girls is great, and it doesn't even have 10K views yet. Like, watch it. It's so funny. It's Roxy and Dorina and our friend Steph Saber just getting drunk on whiskey and hanging out, and it's great. You should definitely give it a watch.
Yeah. So yeah, just find some faces that you like and go, even if it's just a view and a comment and a share or you know, whatever you can do. I know that it's super helpful. So I think that's a good way to cope. If you got some free time, go find some fun stuff for some friendly faces.
There's a lot of great creators out there, and supporting individuals and supporting organizations, I think, is equally helpful right now. Yeah, and we've been calling out to folks. We will continue to do that. We will continue to find organizations to call out for, and individuals, people that we love and care about. So thank you guys for your support, and we love you. And because we love you, we're going to talk about being uncomfortable with our parents. This is the worst movies to watch with your parents, and the question is obvious, folks. What are some of the most uncomfortable moments that you have had watching films with your family? Now that families are stuck together, we want people to avoid our mistakes in this area.
I mean, yeah, I feel like there's some pretty obvious ones. When I was growing up, it was anytime because there was so much news leading up to the opening of Showgirls, because it was going to poison society because it was rated X. Anytime there was even news about it in the paper, like our breakfast table got weirdly uncomfortable, because it was almost like accusing, where my parents would just be like, isn't this that girl from that Saved by the Bell show that you watch? And it was like, this is not my fault.
Did you ever watch Showgirls with your parents?
No, but I feel like I should. I do have a worse one that I did watch with my parents, but not Showgirls.
What is it?
What was it?
So this is years ago, but I rented, I was in high school, I rented Trey Parker and Matt Stone's second movie, Orgasmo. And
Fine choice.
Which is very, if you haven't seen their movies pre-South Park, you should. Orgasmo and Cannibal the Musical are worth watching. I left it in the VCR, and my parents came home, and I was downstairs, I think probably playing Final Fantasy 3, because that's an evergreen statement for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I get, like, my dad was just like, Joseph William, and I was like, oh shit. So like I hustled upstairs, and he was just the most disappointed look, and was, just like, if you're going to watch pornography in my household, at least have the sense to hide it. And I got real self-righteous and intense. It was like, it's not porn, Dad. It's a well-crafted comedic movie. And so, because I wasn't going to lose, I challenged, it was the, I caught you smoking, now smoke the whole pack, but with Trey Parker jokes, where I was like, well, sit down and watch it with me, and I'll prove to you that it's not. So I spite watched Orgasmo with my father, who by the time T-Rex showed up on set, he finally started to smile despite himself, and so I consider it a moral victory.
And
I feel like I generally had a pretty good, at least in my, mid to late teenage years and onward, I knew pretty much what was in a movie, so it was hard to catch me by surprise. But I do remember because I've talked about how I couldn't watch a lot of rated R movies when I was a kid, and I remember when I was, I guess, 13 or 14, I was with my mom, and we were out of town somewhere, and I asked her if we could watch The Rock, which I had not seen but wanted to see, and she said, okay, fine. And I just remember, within the first 5 minutes, a dude's face gets boiled off, which is very, I was like, and then also the scene, I remember very much the scene where Tony Todd is getting very angry at Ed Harris because they're not going to get paid, and they just use the F word 50 times in one scene, or that's what it felt like. And it was quite uncomfortable, because I knew that that was a big no-no. It's particularly the language. And then I also remember being quite uncomfortable during Titanic, because the idea of extended boob shots in a PG-13 movie was unheard of at that time. So it was very uncomfortable to be there obviously, great, but also very uncomfortable to be there with my mom and various family members, because you don't expect it. You don't expect it. I certainly didn't. Yeah.
Spencer?
Yeah, I mean, uncomfortable, it's the usual stuff. I know I watched Wolf of Wall Street with my parents, but we were all older, and it was fine. But I think that what makes me uncomfortable these days is when they'll show me a film that was important to them, and it's just not doing it for me, or vice versa. I remember I watched Easy Rider with my dad, and he's like, this film changed everything. And I get its importance in the context of, film history, but it's boring. And I'm just checked out. I'm like, it's boring. It's a boring movie. I get that it was revolutionary for the time and what it did, but the watching experience is oh boy, this is some real boomer catnip right now. Just getting out on your motorcycle and taking to the road. It's like Wild Hogs, the prequel. But yeah. So that was a very uncomfortable viewing experience, because my dad loves it and I don't. And vice versa, when you show your parents, I don't know, I think last one I can remember that. Well, this wasn't uncomfortable, but another good movie watching story with my dad is when, and I get this now, is I put on Usual Suspects at some point in the 90s, and he fell asleep within the first 15 minutes and then woke up during the reveal at the very end and asked me what happened. Dad, God damn it. I get that. But I think it's really uncomfortable when you're showing somebody a movie you love, or vice versa, that you want them to love it so much, or you feel like they're watching you to kind of gauge your reaction on what you're thinking about it. And that didn't go well for me with Easy Rider.
I had the opposite with me happen. My mom, we were at home and she wanted to watch Mad Max Fury Road, and I was like, Mom, no, you don't. I don't. She's like, no, I want to watch it. You said it was really. I hear you get. Cause she watches our show all the time. It's like, I hear you guys talking about how good it is. I want to watch it. I'm like, okay, we'll watch it. And so like we watched the whole thing, and she just kind of sat there the whole time and didn't really say much. And then I was like, oh man, like and then it was over, and my mom just goes, well, I loved it. And I'm like, really? And then like every like 3 or 4 months she calls me and she's like, guess what I watched this weekend? I'm like, she's like, I watched Mad Max again. She's like, I love that movie. So that completely blew my mind and surprised me.
That's really cute. How many times has she seen it?
She must have seen it 5 or 6 times at least, because she calls every few months and says that she watched, she loves Inception and Mad Max Fury Road. Those are the 2 she'll always tell me that she watched over the weekend.
Now she's ready for our new world too. She's prepared.
Yeah.
Your mom is the doof warrior.
Exactly. I caught her playing a flaming guitar last time I was home. I was like, Mom, I think you've seen it too many times.
I think we're gonna do one more fan question and then we'll wrap it up, grab our cats, move on for the day, head into our weekends. Dante Santella says, hey, SJU, currently celebrating my birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Dante. Note, this was posted a week ago. Happy belated birthday, Dante. Here with a random question. What is the best cake? And what movie do you watch when eating said cake?
Okay, got it. Sorry, I was just like waiting for the second part of what was the best cake.
No, that's it. I think that's it. And it was like, thanks, hope you're all doing okay. All right.
Well, I'll kick this off because I just watched it last night, but I just watched the new version of Emma. And
isn't it sumptuous?
I love, oh my God. It is very sumptuous. I absolutely loved it. And if you need something that'll just make you smile, you should absolutely watch it. Every shot of it's gorgeous, but also almost every shot of it is covered in just these sweets and frosting and cakes that just make the Great British Bake Off look like a bunch of a-holes. And those are my favorite treats right now, is just the treats in the background of every shot of Emma.
That's solid. Yeah. The best cake is I'm not a huge cake guy. I think that pie is taste-wise and morally superior to cake. But if I got to go cake, I think ice cream cake is probably the best cake because you're getting a little bit of everything. You got to be hungry to eat a cake, and you want like if you're gonna take a cake to the face, you better work up an appetite. So I'll probably watch this. I think this is on Amazon Prime for free right now. Is one of the best food movies ever. Is The Big Night, which is also about a restaurant going out of business. So support your local restaurants. And they, man, do they cook up such a good Italian meal? It's gonna make you so hungry. You're gonna want to eat a whole cake. So that's my pairing is ice cream cake and The Big Night.
That's a good one. I like a lighter cake. I enjoy the taste of chocolate cake, but I often find it a little too heavy for me. So I like a lemon cake or a white cake, as Leonardo DiCaprio would say, and white cake. But with like a chocolate frosting, that's good. So I like a bit of a lighter cake. I agree. I'm a big fan of pie as well, but I enjoy a good cake, and I will sit and watch Great British Bake Off and eat sweets because that's like double the pleasure, double the fun right there. And I'm super upset because there's apparently a new charity version of Great British Bake Off that just aired, and Richard Dreyfuss was one of the contestants. And now there's Great British Bake Off / baking show in this world that I haven't seen with celebrities.
From Jaws.
It aired in the UK. I don't know when it airs here or if.
Okay, there's American Bake Off. There's a few things that I was looking into to watch this weekend that were Bake Off related to ease up. I like a blackout cake. So this is from my childhood. So I'm going in the opposite direction of where you guys have all gone, because I don't really eat cake now, and I think probably my palate has changed. But when times were rough, when I was a girl, my best friend Lisa Shanadelia and I, we would get a blackout cake, which is basically like chocolate on chocolate on chocolate, and then in the middle there's this like melted chocolate, and a gallon of milk, and Clueless. So I'm bringing it back to Emma, and that would be the deal. We would eat that. We would pound that blackout cake and that gallon of milk, and we would just get right in and we would rip that Clueless to bits and we would just own all of it. And then we would pass out in a sugar coma for days. And when you wake up, inevitably you feel better. I somehow was not 300 pounds. I don't know how. I don't think I could do that today, but I don't really eat cake today, but that's, I used to love to do that. It really made me feel better to do that.
I hope not sporadically.
And today, every day is a cause for a blackout cake today.
Yes.
So enjoy cake, support where you can, reach out if you need help. Yeah, that's all I can say is like, go treat yourself to something delicious from a local business or something that you would like to read, or, you know, if you want to invest in games or things like that, try and support that way. I am going to get tonight a fried chicken slider with kimchi because it's a hybrid. It was like Korean food with American food, and wow. I love it so much. It's so delicious. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Thank you for sticking with us throughout this stay at home JU. And that's it. My cat had enough, so she doesn't want any. She had enough of me for now, so she's gone to sit in the window and observe the world around her.
We'll be back next week, right?
I guess.
There's no promises anymore, bud.
No promises anymore, Spencer, but sure.
All right, great. We'll see you then.
Yeah.